if you've been in a hard Nike and Adidas, certain Reeboks for a long time, your foot has become adapted to that style of shoe and having a lot of cushion, basically. You've walked around on marshmallows your whole life.
I want to quickly mention Hunt Powerlifting. We were going back and forth in DMs. He's been wearing the Vivo type shoes for like the past 5 years. So he's been on that. And he was mentioning how beneficial it's been for him. We had Dan Grigsby on. My anecdotal experience with that is I did a lot of things barefoot before I was wearing barefoot shoes, but the one thing that people are going to realize if they get any type of barefoot shoes, because there's a lot of brands out there. We like the Vivos, but there's Zero. There's a lot of other things. So get what you like. But the thing you're going to notice is those shoes aren't comfortable. When you put them on, they won't feel, especially if you've been wearing normal shoes for a long time, you're going to be like, God damn, this is uncomfortable. There's not a lot of padding. When I'm walking, I'm feeling a little, some people have their feet literally develop pain in different areas because they're not used to walking in a certain way and putting different pressures on their foot, right? So my question to you is, have you helped anyone deal with like the different type of things that are going to happen to your feet as they start developing within those shoes? Because even though I've been an athlete all my life, my feet have gotten meatier within the past 12 months because of everything
that's
that I've been
100%
doing.
true. That happens. Yeah, because you actually will gain strength and hypertrophy within your foot muscles. The intrinsics will actually get bigger. And also in saying that, for anyone who wears orthotics, orthotics within your shoes, within 12 weeks of wearing them will actually create a what's the word I'm looking for? You'll actually see a smaller muscle size. You'll adapt negatively. Yeah, you'll atrophy. That's the word I'm looking for. You'll see atrophy within the muscle intrinsics of the feet. So we're talking about how do you transition to barefoot shoes? That's a big thing, because if you've been in a hard Nike and Adidas, certain Reeboks for a long time, your foot has become adapted to that style of shoe and having a lot of cushion, basically. You've walked around on marshmallows your whole life, and it's going to be different to try to go to a barefoot shoe, you know? The first time you put on a pair of barefoot shoes, for most people, what you'll notice, you go outside, go on a hard sidewalk or walk around on concrete, and you'll feel like you're clomping around like a monster. You're just going to hit hard and just plop around. And here's the reason for that. When you've been walking around in a pair of Nikes or Adidas your whole life, you've had that cushioned heel. Right? So what do? You heel strike real hard. And there's tons of research that shows the difference between people walking in a heeled shoe like that, a cushioned heel shoe and barefoot. You actually hit much harder when you're in that heeled shoe because your body knows it's going to be soft. Therefore, you actually put more load up through your body. So they did this one study where they were looking at people who have arthritis within their knees. They had less forces placed on their knee joints by walking barefoot. Why? Because you can't heel strike hard. You glide when you barefoot walk. So when you have a shoe on now that's a barefoot shoe, you don't have all that cushion right there. You don't have the marshmallow heel. You got to learn how to walk again a little bit differently. So it's going to take some time to do that. You got to learn how to have that pressure that's more fluid as you're walking. Now, if we're talking about transitioning to walking, that takes a little bit of time. That transition to running with Vivos or Zeros would take even longer. But again, you got to learn how to crawl, walk, run.
Pat Roger family, how's it going? We talk about sleep all the time on this podcast. That's why we partnered with 8 Sleep mattresses. Now, this mattress is the Tesla of sleep. It's the Tesla of beds. Its technology tracks your heart rate variability. It changes its own temperature based off the way you sleep so that you get better sleep every single night. It is quite literally insane. Check them out. Andrew, how do they get it?
Yes, and before I do that, I wanted to let you guys know that you can actually set the bed to wake you up silently. I know that sounds weird, but actually the bed starts vibrating around your head and it doesn't wake up the entire household the way my phone used to do back in the day. So now I just kind of have the bed wake me up silently, and it's amazing. You guys got to head over to 8sleep.com/power project. That's EIGHT sleep.com/power project. When you guys go there, you'll see a banner across the top saying that you're going to receive $150 off automatically. So again, that's 8sleep.com/power project to receive $150 off your Pod Pro cover or your Pod Pro cover and mattress combo. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes. Let's get back to the podcast.
Basics. When someone goes and gets a pair of Vivos or Zeros for the first time, man, just put them on, walk around for like 20, 30 minutes. Get on with the rest of your shoes the rest of the day. And again, slowly over time, go a little bit more. Now, for me personally, sort of like you mentioned, I was barefoot all the time outside of wearing my shoes. So if I'm home, I'm never in shoes. Just naturally, I was always out of my shoes. So I picked it up a lot quicker. I know other people though, that they went into it, put on their pair of Vivos or Zeros. First day to wear them out to work, their feet were just on fire. They hurt the next day. It's because you don't have any support there.
Yeah.
Your foot should be the support, but you're so used to the shoe supporting your foot that your foot is weak. It's like a child learning to run for the first time, or maybe riding a bike for the first time. It doesn't look real great at first. Well, you've been using something that's been supporting your foot structure for such a long time. Your first time in a barefoot shoe that has no support, it's going to take a little bit of time to build it back up. People will always ask me, well, what about arch support? You have bones and muscles in your foot. That is the support. You just have to learn how to use it for the first time. And people will say, well, I have a flat foot, or I have a really high arch. Same thing. Most people that come to me and say they have flat feet, they don't have flat feet. They have low arches and they just don't know how to use them.
Yeah.
Well, and then they're trying to put an arch in their shoe, and it's supposed to be a non-weight bearing part of the body, right? Like we're supposed to be kind of on that outside edge of our foot, right?
That is a great topic that most people don't realize. And we can get into the nerdy part of this real quick.
Let's go.
When you talk about an arch, okay, here's a quiz for both of you. If I look at an arch, a straight bridge, where's the weakest part of the straight bridge?
Right in the middle.
Yeah, dead center, I'd say.
Right in the middle, definitely. What about an arch?
The
arch bridge.
Same, I guess.
The arch bridge actually has the weakest parts sort of at the outside that's supported. The weight distribution is completely spread across the entire arch. So an arched bridge is actually much stronger than a straight bridge, right? Your foot was developed, basically structured like that arch, sort of like the Gateway Arch here in St. Louis, the Roman aqueducts. There's many, illustrations throughout the world of arches being used for the reason that they create so much strength for the structure as a whole. Now, when most people have problems with their foot and you go to a podiatrist or a doctor that gives you arch support, where does arch support the arch?
In the middle.
Right in the middle. But that's not how arches are structured. They get their strength from the outside. So if you want to support an arch, you structure it better from the outside, because in doing so, it spreads the weight out across the entire structure of it. So from an engineering perspective, propping up the arch from the middle with arch support does not make sense at all. We support it from the sides with what? The heel and the metatarsal base. And in doing so, when you actually get your foot on the ground, the heel and the metatarsal base should line up in the exact same manner. And then when you strengthen your body in that specific position, you strengthen the ends and you allow yourself to be in a much more advantageous position for supplying stability for the structure as a whole. But when you put your shoe on, a lot of people, the heel is elevated and then there's toe spring. Right? That front part of the shoe that picks up. What that does is it changes the orientation of the arch within your foot and basically takes a lot of the muscles out of the game. It weakens the structure of the foot long term. The reason toe spring was put into a lot of shoes was because they were developing shoes that were so thick and inflexible that in order to allow the person to look like they at least had normal gait, they had to open the toes up so they could roll forward. If you have a shoe that is flexible enough, there's no need for toe spring. And when you lift the toes off the ground like that, 18 of your 19-foot tendons connects to your toes. So when you're lifting them up, you're shortening them. You're completely taking those tendons out of the game from being in the structurally sound position from a muscle length tension relationship to providing the most stability and structure for the foot.
So Power Project family, I hope you enjoyed this clip. We are on Discord and Reddit. We're trying to talk to you guys and build a community down there. So the links are in the bio. But remember, like, comment, subscribe, share this out with people so you can share the wealth of health. As cheesy as that fucking sounds. Peace.